With the new Tesla around the corner, literally, they will be building them by the end of this year, probably, and it creates a really obvious question, which I'll cover comprehensively in this video. How does the BYD Dolphin compare to the new Tesla Model 2? Thanks for watching me and watching my videos. I'm blown away by the number of people watching recently and commenting things, and generally, I suppose, the amount of people that are as excited about this new future ahead of us with EVs and all of the new tech regarding generating and storing energy in our homes. So I'll go more in depth than usual on this one, and so please watch until the end and let me know your opinion in the comments at the end. By the end of the video, you will be able to really visualize them both side by side. That's my plan. So to start with, let's talk about the design of both of them. And also, I'll just mention, I'm going to do a bit of a score system on this video. I'm not sure if it's a great idea, but I'll give it a go. Kind of like a Doug score, if you know what a Doug score is. They are both stunning looking vehicles. It's obviously subjective, and Tesla clearly make cars that people like the look of. I'm not really one of them. Not bad to look at though, especially at Model 3. That's definitely an alright car, isn't it? But a lot of people really like the look of Teslas. The BYD Dolphin, I also think that's a really stunning car, and it's well designed, and I know a lot of people that think it's a fantastic looking car. And the back end, I think, is almost as good looking as the new Peugeot EV, which I think is one of the best looking EVs from the back out of any car currently for sale, I think, because it's just stunning. For this section on appearance, I would give the Tesla a 6 out of 10 and the BYD Dolphin a 7 out of 10. I hope you don't mind me giving them scores. I thought it would be useful, and it's really hard to do some of these things and give them a score because I suppose it's my perspective and my opinion. I'm trying to give them a score as a conscious consumer who's not a fan of one or the other, but just someone who's considering both. That was kind of how I wanted to do the score system. Performance and powertrain. Again, this is quite tricky. We don't know what the Tesla has for power, but of course it's going to be something like 200 horsepower because it's a Tesla and they're not going to give it 70 kilowatts or something like that. So probably something like 200 horsepower. That's a safe bet, isn't it? Most likely rear wheel drive. The Dolphin has two options here, 70 kilowatt which I like the 70 kilowatt one personally, but then you can also get 150 kilowatt, which is 204 horsepower, which is more than what I think people have been used to on a small little hatchback ordinarily in the last 20 years. But you know, with EVs these days, 200 horsepower is a bit of a go-to number, I think. The Tesla is probably going to be people's favourite here. I'm just going to chuck that out there, I guess. For me, I prefer the BYD powertrain. However, the Tesla has a much more proven powertrain over the last few years, and I suspect it's more appealing for a few reasons. So I'm going to give the Tesla an 8 out of 10 and BYD a 7 out of 10. Battery and range. The Tesla will come with a 53 kilowatt hour battery pack and up to a 70 kilowatt hour battery pack. And it's going to be with the LFP chemistry from Tesla. The Teslas are very efficient too because of the shape of them, and the aerodynamics is very, very good. So actually a 50 kilowatt hour battery pack, for example, would get you further in a Tesla than the BYD just because of the drag coefficient, which does make a difference. I think that's underestimated. The BYD is roughly 45 and 61 kilowatt hour batteries, give or take a little bit. The range on the BYD is great, I think, 320 WLTP kilometers and 450 WLTP kilometers. The Tesla is going to be about 450 to 550 WLTP. Not confirmed yet, so we don't actually know, but it is quite predictable. You know, this is a Tesla, so this is a very big deal. So, you know, people have already made some very accurate guesses, dug really deep into the paperwork and, you know, seen what patents and permissions are being gained already. So we can kind of see a lot of stuff. The Tesla gets 9 out of 10. The BYD gets 8 out of 10. Features and tech. The BYD, honestly, is right up my street. But again, I'm trying to be not biased here. So it's not ram-packed with sensors and tech, And I like that. I honestly, if you could get rid of the screen in the middle, I probably would. The Tesla, we don't know yet, but we will likely have more tech in the Tesla, more radar, more sensors, autopilot, things like that. Both have comparable screen quality. The experience will be very similar. So, the BYDs are very good in this department. I think sometimes people think BYD might be less good than a Tesla in the user experience on the big screen. It's the same. In my opinion, it's the same. It just looks a bit different, but it is the same quality experience that you'll get. There is no lag, for example. BYD, great in this department. Both cars have all of the standard modern tech that we can expect, and possibly a little extra, I think, on the Tesla. So Tesla here gets 9 out of 10, BYD gets 8 out of 10. Warranty and service. This is a bit tricky, depends where you are, doesn't it, and which part of the warranty you're looking at. So it's a bit of a general one. BYD Dolphin battery warranty, 8 years, 160,000 kilometers. That's pretty good. Whichever comes first. The vehicle warranty, 6 years, 150,000 kilometers, which is also quite good. BYD also will cover its cars with a 6-year, 150,000 kilometer warranty. Tesla generally offer the same. Roughly, it's the same sort of warranty. It's not like one's really bad and one's really good, but it does depend on the car, where you buy it, for example. The Model 3 with the long-range battery is covered for 8 years or 120,000 miles, which is 192,000 kilometers or so, whichever comes first, with minimum 70% retention of battery capacity over the warranty period. So we don't know the warranty for the Model 2, but we can look at the Model 3 and make an educated guess and look at the history of Tesla. They'll probably do something very similar. Might be a little bit slightly less good just because of the cost, and this is a bit of a cost saving exercise for Tesla, I think. So I'll give the Tesla 8 out of 10, BYD 8 out of 10. I think they're both all right. Customer satisfaction and after sales, as far as I can see, they are both about the same in terms of how many people have good and bad experiences. This is very, very difficult to make an accurate gauge on. Also, hearing people that have said things in the comments, for example, BYD owners are reporting no faults and great after-sales service, like consistently for the last year. Tesla is actually known for ridiculous and crappy aftercare, which is an issue. I'm sure some people would disagree, and the internet broadly says it is terrible. It's hit or miss. Some people have really good stories, some people have bad stories. I watched one the other day where a guy was saying he lived very rural, and just to stick the dual motor sticker on the car, they insisted he didn't do it himself, and they were not going to mail it to him. And the car, they sent somebody to his house to stick it on for him with a template. That's kind of good, but a lot of people are also having very bad reports consistently. So I've seen things where people have bought $110,000 plaid Tesla, and they have not given somebody something for free for $30 when they really should have gotten it for free. And you think, come on, Tesla, $110,000 this guy's handed you over. So there's some weird stuff. It's a bit odd. But anyway, it definitely is consistently throughout the internet. Tesla don't really excel in that department. I have heard some good stories, but just way too many bad ones. It's kind of simple, really. It's quite clear to me that Tesla are doing less well in this category, so I'm going to give Tesla a 6 out of 10, BYD 7. Charging. Tesla will most likely win this right off the bat. They really are really good at charging. They have access to the charging network. Of course, it is a Tesla, so it will come with a fast charging speed, probably considerably higher than the BYD, which is 80 kilowatts if you get the bigger version battery at its fastest. Realistically, though, it'll probably get 88 or something like the Atto typically does, which is more than is claimed, which is pretty good. And it does that up until 60%. Tesla charging speed hasn't been announced, but will likely be something like 135 kilowatts. Tesla gets 9 out of 10, BYD 8 out of 10. Cost. This is also tricky. You'll notice there's a trend here. This is quite a tricky thing to give a number to, I think, when you're sort of scoring these things. So take them with a pinch of salt. The BYD Dolphin is 39,000 Australian dollars to 44,000 or so Australian dollars here in Australia right now. The Tesla is going to be around 40,000 upwards, depending on if you get any extra bits on top or a bigger battery or something. So they are very comparable. However, the Tesla does generally offer a bit extra for the same sort of money. So the Tesla will get 8 out of 10, and the BYD will get 7 out of 10. Generally, good and bad things to note that I could come up with. The Tesla seems to be kind of like an iPhone. It's a bit bland, I think, and don't feel like they have much soul, in my opinion. But I still like Teslas. It's just like a slightly different experience, I suppose. They're very good cars. I love how smooth and quiet they are. I love that they don't have a silly hum when they cruise around car parks. I like that they're just silent. I like the quality of build on the new ones post 2019. I really like the steering wheel. Like I really, really like the Model 3 steering wheel, for example. I kind of like the minimalist design, but at the same time, I'm a little bit like unsure. But I generally think it's a nice space to be. Like if you set in a Tesla, it's a nice space to be. So it kind of makes sense. It's almost like the minimalism is a thing put in the car design so that you can be more relaxed or something. It's a tricky thing. So the interior is a bit too minimal in my opinion, but I still kind of think it's a good thing and I like it. Generally, Teslas sell like hotcakes, don't they? Especially the Model 3. People really, really want them, and that's the cheapest one. And of course, the Model 2 will be the new cheapest one by a fair bit. The BYD is generally comparable, which if you haven't been in a BYD, you may not actually believe, but especially if you're a Tesla fanboy, they genuinely are very well built. One thing that I have noticed though is that a few months ago I drove one and I went in it for a day, and it was only about 8 months old or so, and some of the cloth on the interior door cards was kind of bubbling off. So kind of when you put your arm in the door, just there to the side there, it was just sort of bubbling off, not through friction or being rubbed, I think. And I just thought that was a bit crappy, you know? But the rest of the car is convincingly well built. But literally, it is, everything else is tip top. If you took the badges off of the BYD cars, you genuinely wouldn't know if it was a Volkswagen or a Mazda or a BYD. I really don't think you'd notice, especially if you were in it on a motorway, cruising down a road or just driving somewhere. So if you were looking at small snippets of the car, like the charge port, for example, or the center console, or the steering wheel buttons, I don't think you'd notice any difference. However, we will know more in 10 years, I think, just how well built they are after they've been used and abused a little bit. However, BYD is not a new company. It's been going for quite a few years now, and they sold 1.8 million cars last year. A lot of cars. 911,000 were full EVs. So huge, huge brand. There's a fair bit of history now. It's not like they're new cars. It's just that we haven't really heard of them for a long time in the West. That's it. So for what it's worth, I've done a bit of a Doug score. I hope you don't mind. The Tesla scored 63 out of a possible 70, and the BYD scored 60 out of a possible 70. So I tried to make these numbers through the eyes of a conscious consumer, like I said, that somebody who might not feel like they prefer one or the other, rather than a fan of a Tesla or a fan of a BYD. So I'd like to think I've done it pretty fair, I think. Let me know in the comments what you think, or if you think I've just done one of those way too wrong or whatever. But thanks to the people that have joined on Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon or YouTube memberships. Links to these will be in the description below. And I think it's about $3. I think on Patreon, YouTube memberships, it's about $3 or so. So it's not very much money. The cheapest and easiest way, though, is to just press the like button and remember to subscribe for my daily videos about EV news from around the world.